Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we have some news today. Yep, Sega's financial reports have come out and it does give a little bit of information regarding Total War and how that's doing. So I figured we should talk about that because it does look fairly good. So yeah, let's just jump right in. Alright, so we've got unit sales of major IPs, full game. So this looks like it's not counting any DLCs, though DLCs seem to be doing really well at the moment, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you start comparing 2025 to the previous years, there's obviously a bigger scope there. Remember, I'm not a financial expert, I'm just going by the numbers that I can see on screen. But it's very obvious anyway that this year is going to be doing a little bit better. Same thing as last year, did better than 2023. 2023 was the, the Shadows of Change drama and stuff like that, whereas 2024 was Thrones of Decay. Pushing up towards that, there was also the stuff with Omens of Destruction, which did not do as well as Thrones, but still was much better than Shadows. It's important to note here that the unit sales are in thousands. So that's actually really good. It does seem like a lot of stuff is selling. Remember a few months back I did say that I was hearing rumors of like Thrones of Decay doing very well, and it does seem like that was the case. I think the only real big issue here is that we don't have any split up of the Total War series, because there's a lot of different stuff that did release. Pharaoh Dynasties did kind of redeem it, so people were buying into it. It wasn't a massive thing, which is kind of obvious by the player numbers, but it would be nice to know the separation of what's doing well, and I don't think they'll ever do that. I don't think they do that for the Sonic series either. Maybe they do for that, because, Sonic is the big fish. Though a lot of stuff can be attributed to the base game selling. A lot of people were jumping into Warhammer 3 recently. I don't know if you guys were looking too much at the top sellers list, but when Thrones of Decay and Omens of Destruction came out, Warhammer 3's base game was actually creeping up to the top slot for a decent amount of time. So it's good to see that new blood is coming into the series. This is generally quite good because a lot of people are being scared, oh, there's rumors of 3 DLCs left and so on. But as long as this is selling, this game can keep on lasting longer and longer. And it's pretty evident when you look at the player numbers. Yes, it's 20,000. Some people might say, oh, that's pretty low, but that's actually really good for a Total War game. And this is fairly decently past the release of Omens of Destruction, which didn't have that much of a big bump. So this actually means that there's more people just casually playing it and getting into the game a lot more often. Keep in mind that prior to this, in certain DLC cycles, we were going down to 10,000 and so on by now. So this is really good numbers. And it's what a lot of people have been kind of hoping for, kind of comparing it to, say, for example, Hoi 4 for Paradox, which just has a really high player number. So the more that this is doing well, the likelihood the more we'll get for this game in the future, even as new titles keep coming out. If this keeps selling, this will keep producing content. Alright, so here we do have a little bit of information regarding the DLC sales. It's saying that DLC sales continue to be strong, exceeding initial expectations. This could be for every one of their titles that they've got up and running. I mean, it's something that was very much expected when we saw the player numbers for Thrones of Decay. And, Thrones of Decay was just an excellent DLC all around. I'm expecting that Omens did sell fairly decently too, because there's a little bit of hype there. While it wasn't as good, let's be honest, the green skin side of the DLC wasn't great. The corn stuff was kind of overpowered, so people jump into that because people like the whole overpoweredness. There was also the End Times unit, so that's the separate IP finally joining the main IP, and people were excited about that, myself included. Big fan of Skull Reapers and Wrathmongers, really depressed that I can't use them in Old World. They're an Age of Sigmar unit now, which means that they can't go back to the setting that they were originally from for some reason. I don't know, Games Workshop. So this graphic is from Sega Informant, a Twitter account, which is a very passionate fan that dedicates themselves to just everything Sega, and it looks like Total War did a lot in terms of just sales units, right? These aren't profit or anything, this is just how many items were sold, it seems, which makes me think, yes, this was also tied to DLCs. Remember that units then translate to every 1,000 or something, right? So yeah, it's pretty impressive. Not sure how much of the stuff is Pharaoh. Again, it's very important to state that, because whilst it didn't do well on Steam, it could have done pretty well on Epic, and the numbers there never really released. But overall, I do think that Warhammer is a large majority here, considering that Warhammer is incredibly popular. Naturally, also take into account older Total War titles, because Total War does go on sale fairly often, maybe 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a year, and people do jump into it. Total War 3 Kingdoms being a very popular one, despite being an abandoned title, it does get a lot of mod support, which makes it absolutely massive. There's a lot of people jumping back into Attila, waiting for that fabled Lord of the Rings mod, which who knows when it's coming, but it does seem like it's progressing very, very well. I know some people would say, well, mods aren't going to generate sales, but in some cases they do. Mods do actually push for that stuff, especially when it comes to something as big as Lord of the Rings, and the engine for Attila not being great, but not being awful either. I think a lot of people want to just move on from Med 2 in terms of like big mods like that, so they can get more updated graphics and a little bit better combat. Alright, so this is something that might be related, keep this with a grain of salt, but Football Manager 2025 has been cancelled. They're moving on to 26, which means that there won't be a Football Manager this year. It's going to be a loss, and it's going to be one of those things there. Now, you might be wondering why this is a big thing. Well, this is a part of SEGA Europe. So other studios like CA Sofia, and so on, that's in the same umbrella. And Football Manager is surprisingly a big game, so much so that it's actually being covered by stuff like the BBC, ESPN, Sky Sports, and so on, because it sold 7 million copies for 24. Now, I don't imagine that this is going to be a Hyenas level disaster, because it wasn't just CA with the Hyenas problem and Shadows of Change, it was loads of studios all around. So I don't think that CA is going to feel the brunt of the work, but I do feel like CA and other studios in SEGA Europe are going to feel incentivized to get products up a little bit faster, which, I mean, could kind of work well for us for Total War DLCs. Right now it's DLCs every 8 months, which isn't great. If it was every 6 months, or hell, even 5 months, it would be lovely. Depending as the quality, right? If the quality shit, no, keep it at 8 months. Everything so far has been good with Thrones and Omens. This is definitely something to keep an eye on, especially as we're looking towards seeing the announcement of a new Total War game this year and so on. They're going to want to try and make their financials look as good as possible. So I would expect maybe seeing the announcement after Q3 so they can get pre-orders out as soon as possible and make their Q4 look absolutely fantastic. I'm not a big football guy, but I know a few people who are quite gutted about the news. However, you know, I like the idea here of just cancelling the release of this title and focus on the development of the next title by taking over development assets. So maybe this loss is something that they can actually spin in a positive light towards their shareholders, and that's what worries me. It's the shareholders for SEGA. But, you know, they're doing a major evolution, renewing the UI, the graphics, and adding new elements. If it's that, that's good, right? It's kind of like what many people are hypothesizing for Total War, that the fact that we're not seeing a game this year being released is because, you know, new engine, and that means that it's going to be better overall, because the Warscape engine is really struggling at the moment. So that's pretty much it. Things seem to be looking good for Total War at the moment. If you want to check out all the financial reports for yourself, because there's a lot of documents, I've put the Sega Sammy link in the description below, because this does look pretty good in terms of Total War. Not sure what it's going to mean for Football Manager and for SEGA Europe as a whole, but I don't think it's going to lead to any big major issues. It's just always good to report. I've got a few friends who play that game, and they're pretty pissed off. Well, good reason, right? Everyone looks forward to a sequel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I do apologize for not being so active lately. I have been painting like a freaking storm, trying to get these armies done so I can do full army showcases for you. Because I want to just like finish off the Tomb Kings, for example, or the Bretonnians. Those are the two factions that I'm almost done with, and it would just be great to finish them off properly now. So yeah, have a great day, guys. I'm going back to paint, and likely going to play a little bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance too, because it's kind of fun. See you guys.